So you're the detective, huh? Didn't think you'd actually show. Not that I blame you. This isn't exactly prime real estate for an investigation. Ash Pines Mall, middle of nowhere. Nothing but cracked pavement, dead storefronts, and a flickering open late sign that hasn't been true for years. Still, I get it. Kids go missing, rumors start flying, and eventually someone higher up decides it's time to stop ignoring the place. Took long enough. Most people just scroll past the videos, laugh, and move on. But you didn't. Alright then. I wasn't sure about this. Talking to a cop, a detective, whatever, never sits right with me. But people are getting hurt, and it's tied to this place. I don't care what they call it online, a challenge, a game, some urban legend. It is real enough to me. And if someone's finally listening, maybe it's time I said something. I guess I should start at the beginning. My name is Sam, and I'm the night security guard here at Ash Pines. I've been working this job for almost 4 years now. The title makes it sound more official than it is. Really, I just walk laps through an empty building for 8 hours straight, make sure nobody breaks anything or dies in the stairwells. That's the job. I didn't grow up thinking this was where I'd end up. Used to be a forklift operator out near Weller Creek, back when the lumber yard was still open. Got laid off when they downsized, and after that it was just one short-term gig after another. Packing boxes, unloading trucks, hard work, but not the kind that really goes anywhere. Then one day, I saw an ad online. Night watchman needed. No experience required. That was it. No fancy company logo, just a number to call and an address that looked like it hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. Figured it was a scam or some kind of dead-end gig. But I didn't have better options. So I drove out and knocked on the side door like the ad said. Guy named Carl let me in. He ran security at the time. Older guy. Looked like he'd been doing this since the 80s. He barely looked at my resume. Just asked if I had a reliable ride and could stay awake past midnight. I said, sure. He gave me a ring of keys, pointed to the break room, and that was that. Anyway, I have been working the night shift here since April. Wasn't supposed to be permanent. Picked it up to help cover bills while prices kept going up. Groceries, gas, Everything seemed more expensive this year. My 2 kids were already reminding me that Christmas was coming, and I didn't want to be the dad who shrugged when they asked for bikes. So I took the hours. Nights pay a little bit more. Nobody else wanted them. And it made sense at the time. The mall's mostly dead now. Has been for years. Most of the good stores left around 2017, and the ones that stayed just never got the hint. Somehow there's still a Radio Shack down by the East Wing. Nobody knows how it's open. Even the guy who works there doesn't seem sure. The food court's half shut, and the Chinese place only makes food if you call ahead. The escalator breaks at least twice a week, and nobody bothers fixing it unless somebody complains. Still, the lights come on every night. Somebody has to walk the halls. That someone is me. I work alone most of the time. Jerry handles the day shift, but he clocks out before sundown and doesn't ask questions. I'm fine with that. My only real partner on the job is Benny. He's a 6-year-old mutt with a good nose, a twitchy tail, and more common sense than most people I know. He walks every round with me, tail up, ears forward, always focused. I bought him a little police dog vest online as a joke, but he wears it like it's part of the uniform. People see him and smile, but I've learned to pay attention when he stops smiling. He takes the job seriously, even when I don't. The first time I saw kids playing the mall game was back in July. It was summer break, and they were bored. Most of them didn't even live nearby. They showed up in groups of 3 or 4, usually with a phone out and someone narrating in that fake, scary voice people use online. I caught him on camera slipping through a maintenance door that never locked right. First, I thought they were just filming, one of those abandoned mall walkthroughs. No big deal. But then they started coming back. Different kids, same behavior, moving in the same directions, touching the same doors, sitting in the same chairs and the same food court booths. They weren't just exploring, they were following instructions. I didn't understand it right away, but it felt too coordinated to be random. After a couple weeks, I stopped one of them and asked what the hell they were doing. He was maybe 16. Hoodie, flashlight, sneakers that lit up when he walked. He was very nervous, but actually polite. Said it was just a challenge. Something from TikTok. Said there were rules, and if you followed them, you could win. I asked what this meant. Win what? He said he didn't know. Just that if you followed the rules exactly, something weird might happen. I asked what the rules were. He rattled some off from memory, then showed me the full list on his phone. And that's when I realized this wasn't some prank. There were a lot of them. Numbered. Repeated online by dozens of accounts. Some rules matched. Some didn't. But enough were the same. So I started writing them down. Alright, well, rule 1. It's called the walk. It's how all of them start the game. The kids, I mean. Every version I've come across begins with this step. They show up sometime before 1 a.m. and wait outside one of the main entrances. That could be the east wing, the west wing, or the food court side. Doesn't matter which one, as long as it's one of the 3 front-facing doors. Back entrances, staff hallways, or side exits don't count. They all say the same thing. It has to be a main entrance, and it has to be exactly 1 a.m. The time seems very important to them. I've heard them say that's when the mall switches over, though no one's ever been clear on what that means. Some of them just repeat it like a rule, like something they read online but didn't question. I've looked through the security system logs. Sometimes around that hour, cameras glitch, lights flicker, or systems reset without warning. Doesn't happen every night, but often enough that I started paying attention. According to the kids, the walk is a focus test. The goal is to walk from the entrance straight to the central fountain. No stopping, no detours, and no looking into the store windows. That last part is the main rule. You're allowed to blink, shift your eyes a little, but you're not supposed to turn your head or glance into any display window along the way. If you do, you're out. You fail the walk. They act like it's a game of discipline, something to prove they can follow instructions. A few treat it like a challenge they can post online. Some even rate each other on how well they stayed focused or how far they got before messing up. Most of it's just talk, but I've watched enough of them try it now to know that the rule isn't just about focus. There's a reason you're not supposed to look. The storefront displays, they're not the same at night. I've worked here long enough to notice which stores leave their lights on and what their windows usually look like. After 1 a.m., some of those displays change. Stores that are empty during the day sometimes have mannequins inside at night. Other displays show doors open that should be locked. Sometimes the lights are off, but there's still something standing behind the glass. The mannequins move. It's small movements. They're not jumping out or shifting fast, but they don't stay put. This one night, I walked past the window of an old women's clothing store. It was empty earlier that week. When I came through that hallway after 1 a.m., there were 4 mannequins lined up at the front of the display. By the time I passed again during my next round, one of them had turned to face the glass. And that kind of thing happens often. I've seen a kid stand in front of a display and just freeze there. He didn't say anything, didn't move, just stared into the glass for too long. When I got his attention and asked what he saw, he said the mannequin inside had stepped forward. I checked the camera footage afterward. The feed was frozen during that time. Nothing recorded. Another night, I pulled 2 kids away from a window near the old jewelry store. They were standing too close. One of them had their phone up, filming. I saw what was behind the glass. A mannequin pressed up with its hand flat against it, like it'd been mid-step when they stopped to look. That display hadn't had anything in it the day before. Sometimes Benny notices them before I do. He'll stop walking and go real quiet, not growling, not barking, just still, tail stiff, eyes locked on something I can't see from my angle. Usually it's one of those windows. I don't ask questions when he does that. I just move along and call him after me. He always follows, but he doesn't take his eyes off the display until we're out of that hallway. The kids don't take any of it serious. They talk about points and rounds and beating the walk, like there's some kind of prize at the end. But the way I see it, the walk isn't testing them. It's watching to see who's paying attention. The second someone looks into the glass, they're not just breaking a rule. They're making contact with something inside. If you reach the fountain without looking into the windows, the game says you pass. You're allowed to move on to the next part. If you fail, you're supposed to leave the mall right away and try again another night. Most kids don't take it that seriously. They mess around, get bored, and head out. But I have seen a few who don't. One boy disappeared from the cameras after failing the walk. His friends said he wanted to keep going anyway. We found him in the west stairwell 2 hours later, just sitting on the floor. He wouldn't say anything. He didn't respond when the paramedics arrived. He didn't even blink until they carried him out. Another kid ended up 10 miles away, wandering barefoot into a gas station at dawn. He couldn't explain how he got there. He told the officer he had taken a wrong turn somewhere behind the fountain, and that part of the mall has no back exit. So that's rule 1. Walk from the entrance to the fountain at exactly 1 a.m. Don't stop, don't speak, and don't look into the windows. Rule 2. Rule 2 is called the Echo Challenge. This step comes right after the kids finish Rule 1. If they reach the central fountain without breaking the first rule, the game tells them to head to the south wing. That hallway is on the far side of the mall, past the old pet store and the closed vitamin shop. It leads toward the freight elevator, and what used to be the main employee service hallway when the mall was fully staffed. Once the player reaches the middle of that hallway, they're supposed to clap 1 time. Just once. The kids treat it like a signal for the next level. Some of them say it wakes up the mall for the next step. Others say it triggers the next challenge. There's no real explanation. They just repeat what they hear online. The rule says that if the clap comes back with a clean echo, same timing, same tone, then they pass and can move to Rule 3. If the echo takes too long or comes back sounding different, then they're supposed to stop immediately and leave the mall before 1:10 a.m. That part gets ignored a lot. The problem is that the south wing reacts to sound at night. I don't know the reason, and I've never seen a person down there after hours, but I have heard things move around in that wing, like heavy items dragging on the floor. I hear it during rounds sometimes. It's not every night, but when it happens, it always lines up with the same time, between 1:04 a.m. and 1:12 a.m. Benny refuses to go near that hallway no matter what time it is. He'll walk with me anywhere else in this mall, but not there. The south wing, it's also older than the rest of the building. When the mall was first designed, that hallway was supposed to connect to a second expansion that never happened. Construction began in the early 2000s, but there was a fire during the build-out. Wasn't publicized much, but a few employees working overnight were killed. The official story blamed faulty wiring, and cleanup started right away. They kept the building for a little while after that, but the project was shut down not long after, unofficially. A bigger issue is the backroom doors in that area. The mall has several service corridors that run behind the storefronts. Most of them are locked, but the ones in the south wing have been opening on their own. I found them cracked open on nights when I know I checked them earlier. And whenever this happens, it's always around the same time, right after a group of teens try to play the mall game. And this brings us to the case you asked about earlier. The kid they found in the water tank on the roof. Yeah, that was Caleb Meyer. 14 years old. Came in with his older brother and 2 friends on August 19th. I wasn't near the entrances at the time, but I saw all of them on the security footage later, before handing the tapes to the police. They entered through the food court doors at 12:56 a.m. Caleb was wearing a red hoodie, and the brother had a backpack. They stopped at the fountain like the game tells them to. It was around 1:03 a.m. when they got there. They talked for a bit, and then Caleb and his brother started walking toward the south wing. The other 2 stayed behind. That's not unusual. Sometimes kids split up when they want to film different parts of the challenge. The cameras recorded them entering the hallway at 1:06 a.m. At 1:08 a.m., the footage shows only the brother coming back. He turned around, walked a few steps backward, said something out of view, and then came back alone. He rejoined the others, and they all left the mall by 1:11 a.m. They didn't report Caleb missing until the next morning when he didn't come home. When officers questioned the brother, he said they both clapped just like the rules said. His echo came back right away, but Caleb's didn't. The brother described it as slow and uneven. He said it sounded like it bounced off a room that wasn't supposed to be there. He told Caleb they should head back, but Caleb said he wanted to check something real quick. He walked deeper into the hallway, and the brother left him there. 9 days later, maintenance workers noticed complaints from the shop owners about the tap water. When they checked the rooftop tank, they found Caleb inside, dead. The tank hatch was closed. The maintenance staff had to cut the lock to open it. The ladder inside the tank wasn't extended, and the access door leading to the roof didn't show signs of forced entry. He didn't have any broken bones, and there weren't marks that suggested he'd been in a fight. But there was an open wound on his abdomen that the coroner couldn't explain. And his liver was missing. His clothes were folded beside the tank, as if he'd taken his time arranging them. His shoes and socks were placed neatly next to the pile, lined up instead of kicked off. They didn't find his phone or his wallet. All I can tell you is that the hallway he walked into has a backroom door that connects to the service corridors. That door was found open that same night. I saw it myself. I used my own key to lock it again. I think Caleb made the mistake of hearing the wrong echo and staying anyway. Whatever answered him wasn't supposed to. And that's all I know about Rule 2 in that particular case, Detective. But there's 2 more rules that you should know about. Rule 3 is called Ride the Elevator. This is the step where things usually go wrong. If a kid makes it through the first two parts, the walk and the echo, then the next move is to go to the central elevator, not the service lift in the back, not the one near the food court. It has to be the main one in the middle of the mall, right next to the fountain. It's old, the panel inside scratched up. The lighting above it is dim, and sometimes the floor indicators don't light up at all. Still works though. Maintenance checks it once a month, and I've ridden it hundreds of times. Normally, it takes you to 3 places: the ground floor, the second floor, and the underground parking garage. That underground level is labeled C1 for Car Park 1. That's the only underground level the mall was supposed to have, at least officially. According to the kids who play the mall game, that elevator behaves very differently after 1 a.m. But only if you followed the first 2 steps exactly. If you mess one of them up, it just works like normal. But if you do everything right, they say the elevator will flicker when you press C1. Sometimes the button flashes twice. Sometimes it lights up, then shuts off, then lights up again. They call that the signal, like a confirmation that the game is still going. The goal is to ride the elevator all the way down to the parking garage. They say the ride takes longer than it should. The distance from the main floor to C1 is only 1 level, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, but the kids report staying inside for up to a full minute. Some say it feels longer than that. A few have filmed themselves standing inside, waiting, just to prove how long it takes. The elevator has no music, just that mechanical hum. They usually record their faces in the ceiling corner, using their phone cameras to catch their own expressions. I've seen those videos. Most get deleted or flagged. The ones that stay up just show them waiting. The footage usually ends when the doors open. They expect something scary, like a spooky parking garage. Some lights flickering, maybe something far away in the dark. That's what they come in hoping for. Something thrilling, something that gives them a good reaction clip. But that's not what this step is. When the elevator reaches the bottom, it's not always C1 anymore. I've been in that elevator during the day. I've ridden it to check reports, test the panel, or take deliveries to the lower garage. During normal hours, the only options on the panel are G, 2, and C1. That's it. No surprises, nothing weird. But after 1 a.m., and only on certain nights, more buttons appear. I've seen them myself. Buttons labeled 01, 02, and 03. I've asked maintenance about it, and they say those levels don't exist. The elevator system isn't coded for more than 1 basement level. No blueprints include a 2nd or 3rd subfloor. Nothing in the electrical room shows power routed that far down. But I have seen those buttons with my own eyes, and so have the kids. The stories vary depending on who you ask. Some say pressing 01 takes you to an old, forgotten part of the mall that was buried when they redid the foundation. Others say pressing 02 or 03 brings you to something worse. A few online say that's the part where you go to hell, but most just call it the next step in the challenge. I've never pressed those buttons. I won't, but I've talked to people who did. At least the ones who came back. A couple of teens I stopped one morning said they made it all the way to level 01. They said the elevator opened to a hallway with yellow wallpaper and water up to their ankles. They didn't go far in. One of them said it felt like something horrible was just around the corner. A feeling they couldn't explain, that eventually forced them to wade back to the still open elevator. I've heard the reports. The missing kids. I think Rule 3 is when most of them disappear or go missing. They step into that elevator, press a button, and the doors open to something they weren't ready for. After that, there's no camera footage. The elevator returns empty, sometimes after a delay. The button panel is back to normal when I check it. I have had to call more than one set of parents. I've looked through the footage. There's no struggle, no signs of panic, no alarms go off. They just ride the elevator down, the doors open, and that's it. They're gone. I don't know if it takes them to hell. I don't know if I believe in all that. But I do think it takes them somewhere they weren't supposed to go. Somewhere beneath a mall that isn't mapped, built, or maintained by anyone still working here. I think those extra floors are part of the same system the back rooms are connected to. The ones that open up when the south wing is active. Whatever's down there, it isn't empty. There's one more rule. Rule 4. I call it follow the dog, and it's the only rule that can actually save someone. Before I explain it, I need to be direct with you, because you're a detective, and you asked for the truth. There's something inside this mall. It lives in the back rooms, the service tunnels, sealed hallways, and unmapped basement levels that shouldn't exist. It's the reason the displays shift. It's the reason the south wing acts the way it does. It's the reason the elevator goes places it shouldn't. And it follows the kids. Not all the time. Not every night. But when they get too far into the game, when they ignore warnings, stay past the time limit, or press the wrong button, that thing finds them. It moves quietly, and it's patient. When it gets close, the air changes in a way people don't notice at first. You feel pressure, or maybe just the sense that something is standing too close. Kids think it's nerves. It's not. The autopsies never get released publicly, but I have seen the reports for 2 of the missing kids you mentioned earlier. Both had the same thing in common. Clean abdominal wounds and missing livers. No struggle marks. No trauma consistent with a fall or impact. Just that one detail. Do I think the monster eats kids? Not exactly. But it hunts them. And it eats certain body parts. Then it leaves the rest. That lines up with what I've seen in the hallways. Not directly. I've never seen that thing in full. I don't know what that thing really looks like. But Benny does. He's not trained for this, and I've never taught him anything special. But he's been with me long enough that he recognizes when that thing is nearby. He hears it before I do. He senses it when it slips between the unfinished walls or moves through the locked service corridors. Every single time that creature gets close to someone, close enough that the kid is about to do something stupid, like take a step into the wrong room, Benny is there first. He puts himself between them and whatever is behind them. Kids think he's part of the game. They see a dog show up in the middle of something spooky, and they assume he's a hint or a guide. They call out to him. They try to follow him deeper into the mall because they think they unlocked a secret stage. There's nothing special about it. Benny goes to them because the monster is very close. Last December, 3 boys snuck in through the service door behind the gym. They were loud, not scared at all. One of them was live streaming it, telling his chat he was about to do Rule 3. I watched them cut across the corridor from the camera feed. I started heading toward him, but Benny was faster. By the time I reached the south wing entrance, Benny was already standing in front of the boys, ears forward, not wagging or excited, just alert. He was looking past them down the hallway. The 3 kids thought it was funny. One bent down and tried to pet him. The kid behind him pulled out his phone and said, "Whoa, is this a bonus round?" I got there just in time to stop them from walking any further. When I turned to look where Benny was facing, I saw something shift in the shadows of the unfinished hallway behind the old vitamin shop. It pulled back the moment Benny growled. Whatever that thing is. I think it's scared of dogs. If he hadn't found him, those boys would have kept going. Another time, this was last spring, a girl was trying to record the elevator part of the game. We were on the elevator with her when she quickly pressed C1 and the door didn't open to the right floor. The hallway she stepped into wasn't part of the mall I knew. It had pipes on the ceiling and a long line of dark concrete rooms with no numbers. She thought it was the secret basement level, so she quickly stepped out with her phone held high. Benny sprinted past me the moment the elevator opened. He shoved himself between her and the hallway, barking hard enough to echo. She froze. And then the lights down that hallway, the ones I didn't know, started shutting off, one after another, each click louder than the last. Something was walking in the darkness, coming toward us. She backed into the elevator, and I slammed the door close button. We didn't talk for the rest of the ride. And that's why I tell people this rule plainly. No metaphors, no jokes. If the dog finds you, the game is over. Follow him out, or you won't leave at all. Kids don't understand how the mall behaves when someone gets too far into the game. They think the flickering lights and the changing hallways are all scripted to scare them. They don't realize the mall is helping it move. They don't notice when it funnels them toward the exact 2 places they should never go: the south wing and the unmapped basement levels. The south wing connects to the back rooms, and the back rooms are where that thing lives. That's where the half-finished hallways are. That's where the sealed fire doors open by themselves. That's where the fire happened years ago. The one they blamed on faulty wiring, even though the workers' bodies were found in positions that didn't match smoke inhalation. People say the expansion stopped because of that. They say the blueprints were shredded on purpose, and nobody talks about it anymore. As for the basement levels, the elevator shouldn't even reach them. But when someone plays the game right, the mall opens paths that aren't supposed to exist. And when someone steps through those paths, that thing follows. And that's why Benny is the last rule. He is the only warning you get. If he finds you, don't film him. Just follow him. Immediately. More often than not, animals know something we don't. And that's everything. Every rule, every sighting, at least most of them, every kid I had to walk out by the arm, shaking and silent. I've told you what I've seen, and what I've pulled from the logbooks, the broken cameras, and whatever the mall didn't swallow whole. You asked me for the truth, or something close to it. And that's what you got. There isn't more to explain, not really. Some nights I still hear footsteps where there shouldn't be any. Sometimes I catch glimpses on monitors that don't record. Sometimes Benny growls at nothing for a little too long. But that's just the job now. We'll be sticking around, me and Benny. Same uniform, same loop, same elevator that still thinks there's a floor beneath the parking garage. Someone has to keep the kids from pressing the wrong button. I'm not sure what's going to become of this place. Are they going to tear it down? Seems like there might be a chance of that, considering we got you detectives sniffing around the place. But nah, I know the county mayor. He keeps this joint running even if it cost him a few kids. That's how he thinks. Probably tells himself none of this is real and that all the disappearances aren't connected. Benny and I will just have to keep doing our jobs, saving as many as we can. As for you, you've got a badge, you've got a folder full of missing persons reports, you've got enough to file something, push it up the chain, maybe even get a meeting scheduled, who knows. But let's be honest, you've seen the same footage I have. You've read the statements. You know there's no one you can hand this to who will believe any of it. So here's what I'll say. You don't need to believe all of it. You don't need to write it down word for word. But the next time someone brings you a case that leads back to this place, and they will, I want you to remember what I told you. If you ever come back after dark, for whatever reason, bring a flashlight, stay out of the south wing, and don't get on that elevator if it's already open. Hey, huge thank you to all my patrons. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, there's a link in the description. I hope you enjoyed the story, and have a good night.